Please come to order. Good evening. Welcome to our joint meeting with the St. Mary's County delegation. Please turn your cell phones off or on vibrate. I am Randy Guy, President of the Commissioners of St. Mary's County. I'd like to introduce the other commissioners at the table and the delegation. Sitting to my right is Commissioner Eric Colvin.
Good evening.
And Delegate Chairman, Delegate Matt Morgan.
Thanks for having us.
Sitting to my left is Commissioner John O'Connor and Commissioner Todd Morgan. Sitting at the presenters table in front of me is Senator Jack Bailey, Delegate Brian Crosby, and Delegate Gerald Clark.
Good to see you.
I'd like to also introduce county staff assisting. Sitting at the tables to my left are Dr. Rebecca Bridges, our county administrator, and Dave Weiskopf, our county attorney.
Good evening.
Sitting at the side table to my right is Lisa Cassis, our communications director.
Good evening.
Ms. Amy Carter, our video media producer, is behind the glass. At this time, I would like everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Thank you. I would like to welcome our citizens in the audience and at home to tonight's joint meeting with the delegation. I would like to thank Senator Bailey, Delegate Morgan, Delegate Clark, and Delegate Crosby for meeting with us this evening to continue our partnership for the important work we are doing on behalf of the citizens of St. Mary's County. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to provide the commissioners, the delegation, and the public an opportunity to hear presentations and provide comments on the 2022 legislative proposals. We are looking forward to a productive meeting. Delegate Morgan, would you like to make some opening remarks on behalf of the delegation?
Well, I just want to thank the county commissioners for having us here tonight. We look forward to going over these proposals with you. I want to thank your staff. These notebooks that you do are really impressive putting together. And I know you've had several meetings about this in the public and gone over this, and I've watched and tuned into those meetings. So I'm just looking forward to going through here and taking whatever county proposals that we have. I'll take them in front of the delegation for a full vote, get back to you, and just appreciate working with you.
Okay. Thank you, Delegate Morgan. Appreciate your help on this. Let's move directly to our meeting tonight. Mr. David Weiskopf, our county attorney, will now present our 2022 legislative proposals and provide guidance for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Are you going to provide guidance or? Okay. I will go over the 8 items that we have. We advertised in the Southern Maryland News on September 17th and September 24th for this public hearing. And to jump right in, number 1 is golf carts. And the request is to, the same as last year, basically, to allow the county commissioners to designate a county highway as being able to be driven on by golf carts if it meets certain criteria. The criteria being, 35 miles or under, that the person have a license, that the golf cart itself meets certain standards. And
yeah, I look forward to taking this in front of the full delegation. The delegation supported this bill last year, as you know, to give people out there in TV land a little background on this. We passed a pilot program for Golden Beach about 3 or 4 years ago to see how it goes, and that was the first place in the state that was allowed to have golf carts on these types of roads. We've had significant pushback up in Annapolis on this because there is some concern about the safety of golf carts out there, but we think the commissioners in Leonardtown here, you guys, can do an adequate job of putting those in really, really safe areas to benefit the communities. So we're like-minded in that approach. We're just running into a slight roadblock up there in Annapolis. But I don't want anyone to think like, a lot of the things came out of the meeting last year is because Golden Beach had it, some people in the community thought they were being discriminated against. And that's not how legislation moves, and that's not remotely what is happening. Basically, we started a program for Golden Beach to see how it would work out, and now we're trying to apply that to the rest of the county and give you the ability to do it yourselves rather than have to run up there and actually change state law for every area and community in the county. So this is something that's going to get done. I'm just a little apprehensive of when, but we'll keep chipping away of this. Delegate Clark, do you want to make a comment on this since this goes through your committee directly?
The only thing I'd like to say, don't feel discriminated upon because the chair of the committee, Environment and Transportation, decided not to entertain any golf cart bills last year because, and since Golden Beach, there's been numerous golf cart legislation come through for places like Chris Field and Vienna and a whole bunch of municipalities and county areas. So I think last year he just said, well, we're not going to do any golf cart bills this year. So we'll see if there's some way we can convince him to do this as a single bill, local bill, or maybe address it in legislation statewide, giving the counties more leeway in regulating them.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, we started a trend.
Yeah, we started the trend.
Trendsetters.
Well, we did. This started when I think the commissioners heard from people, I think it was Horse Landing Road or something like that. and-
Horseshoe
yeah.
Lane Road.
Yeah.
I think the original intent was to use Golden Beach as a pilot program and end up where we are now.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Hewitt had asked if there was any incidents with golf carts, and I'm very proud to report there have been no incidents with golf carts down there. There's been four-wheelers, but we all know four-wheelers are not supposed to be on the road in the first place. So
Right. So for those that don't know, the legislation still requires for a licensed driver and lights and stuff and some basic safety features on the golf carts. And it's really worked out in Golden Beach of taking vehicles off the road.
Yes.
And I think some of the waterfront communities around in the rest of St. Mary's could really benefit from this. We'd like to give you the ability to be able to do that with certain parameters like speed limit, dead-end roads and stuff like that, which is the legislation that we put forth last
Can
year.
you say we're reducing emissions, and we will work closely with our sheriff's department and police department to make sure that what we're doing is safe in any community.
Yeah, I don't think you have to sell the delegation on it. It's just a matter of,
Is your-
for whatever reason, last year.
Your committee
with
wouldn't hear it.
COVID, the committees were trying to keep the number of bills down and things like that, so.
Okay.
But we'll work on it this year.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, we'll vote this in the full delegation, and I
Okay.
don't think it'll be a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners and delegation. The next was to amend Section 29-106B1 and 2 of the local government article of the annotated code to revise the St. Mary's County Human Relations Commission's duties language. And if you were to ask me which one I thought would have no problem and be strictly vanilla, it would have been this one, but people had lots of questions on it
Well-
once it got going. But basically, it mirrors federal language, right, and says that nobody should be discriminated against for age, gender, and, national origin, religion, race. And so what they wanted to do was add the two new ones in, which was sexual orientation and gender identity. And I think problems started,
Yeah, well, and let me elaborate on that. Thank you for the bill, and we'll look forward to voting this bill up in delegation as well. I look forward to taking this bill personally to EHE committee in the Senate myself. As you know, it passed the House unanimously without any incidents, and a couple senators over there on EHE really had a problem with the language, all people. So they really like to separate people by groups, which, most of us really disagree about. But, I look forward to a better bill hearing this session. So I'll say that, and I look forward to taking it through personally. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. And next was from the Office of Emergency Services, asking that the animal control officers would be allowed to wear body cameras as well. And the reason for this is, the Maryland state law has the wiretap law, which does not allow for audio tape recordings to be made, but there is an exception for sworn police officers. So we just wanted to include the animal control officers into that definition.
Senator Bailey, did you want to weigh in on that?
I think we have heard the issue, and we will discuss it as a delegation.
Okay.
I think one of the things I hope the delegation keeps in mind is the chairman of the Risk Management Committee for the Local Government Insurance Trust. The body cameras are a huge push right now government-wide for liability purposes. One of the things our animal control officers do carry firearms. They do have to put down officers. And if I can reference the most recent cat situation that we have in the county, it is a very heated and emotional experience, sometimes more than dealing with humans. This will add a level of protection for the county when it comes to litigious situations and liability and complaints that not only I think the county would like for litigation, but as the insurance provider for the county would definitely help in dealing with that and keeping our rates down and premiums down and everything else that goes along with it. So from that side, on the risk management from Legit, I think this is good, and it's also used plenty of places in the animal control realm. So,
Well, you bring up some excellent points, Commissioner, and I'll take it in front of the full delegation for their vote.
Thank you. Next is item number 5, which was
Number 4.
number 4. I'm sorry, I had a mark next to item number 4, which was to to amend a state law that has a ban against polygraphs and then has certain exceptions. And again, the Department of Emergency Services would like to accept paramedic and EMT applicants as well as emergency communication center applicants, i.e. the 911 callers.
So I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I think the intention of this legislation is to better screen people in emergency services. You want to elaborate on that? Give me an example.
I think I can elaborate from this side. So I've been working with Mr. Walker on this. The basic gist is a law enforcement officer, when you're going through your background process because you have access to sensitive information such as NCIC, people's property, tangible items, we do that and we ask certain questions. The other thing that we ask questions about is the sexual acts of misconduct, things like that. So when we're doing hiring for paramedics and EMTs and dispatchers, which have access to dispatchers, NCIC, sensitive information with the sheriff's office as well, and then our paramedics and EMTs who are going into people's homes, we want to be able to better screen them through our background investigation process to ensure that they're being candid and truthful in everything that they've put in their book. So we want to avoid any situations prior to them happening. We want to make sure the best qualified candidate is entering and providing care in the county. And at the same time, it is also a liability issue. If we're screening people correctly, and when it comes down to it, you all know, you heard it for the last year, what was the background process on these people? Who are you hiring? Who are you allowing into these people's homes? So that's part of this.
Yeah, that sounds like all legitimate, reasonable reasons to me. So I'll take this in front of the full delegation. If anybody, Delegate Clark.
I have one question, or really two. What this says is it's part of the Maryland Annotated Code. So that's a statewide regulation, I assume, that bans
Yes.
the thing. So to your knowledge, is there any other counties that have an exception to that code?
There are. I believe Washington County has an exception for their emergency personnel people. If we go to
I believe
Number
Calvert
4.
County as well for their dispatchers.
let's see.
Wouldn't have that.
Oh, no. It's, I thought it was in here somewhere. This section does not apply, Washington County Emergency Communications Center has it, and some of the detention facilities have it as well.
So there's already precedence for
Okay,
counties.
yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Right.
Was there any precedent?
Right.
Thank
So
you.
Washington County has an exception.
Well, that's helpful. So thank you. And I'll take this in front of the full delegation for their vote.
Okay, thank you. And that would bring me to the actual number 5, which was brought by or requested by our treasurer of St. Mary's County. Basically, when she goes to tax sales, by state law, she's only allowed to charge she's only allowed to pay the auctioneer $3 a sale, but the auctioneer charges us $10. So she'd like the state law to say that, actual cost. So that way she doesn't go in the hole paying the auctioneer.
Well-
Basically, if you look at the law, each law, most counties are different. Some are 10, some are 11. I mean, one thought is, is to simply set it at 10, but then we might be back here in a year or two when when the auctioneer's cost goes to 11 or 12. So what she'd like to do is simply say, what the actual costs are.
Do you
So-
have any idea how many of these auctions that we're talking about?
Oh, for,
These are all county surplus properties or tax
it's
sales.
the tax sale that happens.
We're not talking about tremendous amount.
No, it's a tax sale that happens in March, and it could be, over 100. I mean, the ones that get sold back to the county because nobody's bid on them, we don't have to pay the auctioneer for. But the ones that are successfully sold at tax sale, I mean, you're talking maybe $1,000, $2,000,
Okay, gotcha.
It makes sense.
All right.
To not go in the hole.
Appreciate that.
One question, when you say at the actual cost, so the actual cost for that service would be set by the auctioneer?
Yes, the auctioneer sets it right now,
Would it be a smart thing to say actual cost with some type of a cap to where that
Well,
the
there's-
county is willing to pay?
there's more than one auctioneer, so I guess if one auctioneer wanted to, be too expensive, she would go on to the next, I guess, right?
I mean, I see where you're going, Delegate, and I think that might be a wise thing to consider moving down the road, because as it was being read, the same thing popped into my mind, which is that a cost shall not exceed this amount, or up to something of that nature. This way, if we're putting legislation in that says, whatever the actual cost is, they can't come back and say it's $100, and then
Yeah,
we can set it to
right.
that. So I think that might be a wise compromise.
Didn't we put a cap on this already, $15?
That's certainly a way to do it, or, like I said, you could put in $10. That's what we're being charged. It's just that we might come back in a year or two or three and,
So
Ask the-
when was the last time this was actually raised?
for St. Mary's, it's been some time. I mean,
Yeah, so you've been making up the difference now, right?
Yes.
right.
So if we
Right.
raised it to $10, which seems pretty reasonable, given.
We'd be happy, right.
Given the
She would.
state, you haven't affected anything, right? Because you've been making up the difference anyway.
Right.
We can come up with a number.
Yeah, so we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. And number 6 was my request from the county attorney's office to amend the general provisions article of the annotated code of Maryland to amend the definition of newspaper and newspaper general circulation. And the reason for this was, quite frankly, just to have another tool in the toolbox, right? Right now, there's Southern Maryland News, and that's it. That meets the definition. So, we'd like to expand on it.
Yeah, I have been contacted by the newspaper. Of course, they're going to disagree with this. We're going to take it in front of a full delegation and have a discussion about it, because I do sense your concern here, because, at one time, I think there was like 4 newspapers in St. Mary's County, and now really basically there's like 1.5, with the County Times having probably more circulation than the actual Southern Maryland News at this point. At least that's been my experience. I think there's something in the legislation currently about it has to be a per fee, or they have to know the circulation or something, where the County Times is for free versus,
Right. What the law currently is that it has to be at least 4 pages. It has to habitually contain news items, current events, editorial comments, etc. Published for at least 6 months, general circulation throughout the community, and qualifies for periodical rates, and is also for sale. And obviously, the County Times doesn't meet the for sale.
right.
And, and it's not just that, because what also happens is when the Enterprise was 2 days a week, Wednesday and Thursday, as you're probably aware, we have certain public hearings. You have to, publish the advertisement 21 days out, or not 7 days later, or 30 days. And so it's nice to have another date, because the County Times is Thursday, and then the Southern Maryland News would be Friday. So that's another reason. It would be nice to, in case we missed the Friday date, maybe we can make the Thursday. It's just, again, another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's becoming problematic. It's just the state of the economy where newspapers are just not what they used to be. Most things are going online now. So we'll definitely take a look at this, and I'll take it in front of the full delegation for for
I
their
think it
input.
comes down to also a transparency in local government, and being able to reach more people through a free newspaper is a good thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way the law is written, it seems like they're penalizing like the County Times because they're a free newspaper, when that's just their business model.
Right.
They have a wider circulation than the newspaper that we currently are forced to use because of the for sale portion of it. And ultimately, I believe that, I mean, take you at your word, you want people to see these advertisements, and we want to put them in as many places as possible. So we'll take a look at that legislation, definitely, and bring it up for a full
Okay,
vote.
thank you.
Thank you. And number 7 is to add a new subtitle to the local government article of the annotated code related to motor vehicle towing and immobilization on private property for St. Mary's County. Basically, this was requested by Commissioner O'Connor, sort of like an anti-predatory towing bill, so to speak. And I think the commissioners have had complaints in the past from people who've been towed from HOA places. And what this would do, instead of somebody, parking in the wrong spot for 2 minutes getting towed, it requires, I believe, a notice to be placed on the vehicle, for 24 or 48 hours. And after that, then it could be towed.
So it's like a good Samaritan.
Yeah, but it's a little bit more than that. What I'm trying to combat is the predatory practice of spotting. So the tow truck drivers, if you're not familiar, will go ahead and have somebody in a regular car. They'll park there. They'll watch the person get out. They'll call the wrecker. The wrecker will hook them. They'll have a flatbed waiting. They'll pull one car up. The spotter will stay there. They'll put 2 on. They'll roll them back, and they keep hooking them and hooking them, and it becomes a predatory practice at that point. I have spoken with PJ's Towing, very supportive of this. Other tow companies in the county, they are supportive. They realize that there has to be some sort of regulation. They are supportive. The sheriff, I spoke to him, and he is willing to administer the program through the traffic safety unit there, similar to other models that have been set up. It basically, I feel this will stop making our citizens victims of the predatory towing practices.
Yeah, we definitely want to protect our citizens, and that's, you walk out of someone's house and see your car gone, you're kind of wondering what the heck happened to it.
And-
The prevalence is down at Delaware Crosby in my district, where it just happens on a way too more recurring basis, and when you're charged $250, $300 while spotters getting a cut probably on the action.
Well,
It's crazy.
I know other jurisdictions have tried to tackle this issue, especially in more metropolitan areas. Deli Clark, you got some input on this because this goes through your committee.
Just one quick question to the attorney or commissioner, kind of. In St. Mary's County, how does the sheriff's department handle towing from accidents and different things on the road? Is there, I know some jurisdictions have set amounts that they allow towing companies to charge.
Yeah.
And the sheriff's department sets the rates.
Yeah.
Do you have that in St. Mary's County? or-
So there's a sheriff's department approved tow list, and currently those towing companies need to be in compliance. There's certain rates that are set by the sheriff's department. Their vehicles are inspected. And within this private law, there is an exemption for the law enforcement services that are provided as well. So basically, we fall in line to the program the sheriff already has, where these towing companies would have to register their rates that are set by the commissioners. So that's, yeah, right in line with what you're asking.
And the second question is, if it's on private property, and say you're in private condominium area or private rental apartments and things like that, do the owner of the property have a say-so in who does the towing? And if so, I guess, should the county be setting that fee? I understand why you want to do it, but I guess,
So
yeah.
they contract with the company. Now, the fee is, the state already sets the maximum fee, which is $250 per tow, $100 per drop, where, you come up, walk up on your car, and you have to drop it because it's not a complete tow, 12 inches off the ground, the tire's not hooked. That's already set. there's only a top amount you can charge. Then the state says you can only charge X amount of dollars for impounding the vehicle. So right now, the maximum is $280. So what happens is when somebody comes out, they're getting hit with $280 based on what tow company it is. So the state already says what the max is for the tow. The property management agency does not receive any funding from that particular tow. It all goes to the company. So that's what
I was.
Yes, yeah. It's all promoting that practice there, that grab that $280, every single time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The last was a citizen request to amend Section 3-1101, paren G of the Education article of the Annotated Code of Maryland to limit elected members of the St. Mary's County Board of Education to 3 consecutive full 4-year terms.
Okay. So I definitely understand where the citizen that proposed this is coming from. I mean, myself personally, I've co-sponsored term limit legislation. But that legislation affected the unit of government that I was in. I'm a little apprehensive about passing term limits on a unit of government without that unit of government adhering to term limits. So I think that's one of the main problems that we would have with a bill like this until senators and delegates are willing to live up to term limits. I don't know if we really should be forcing it on other units of government.
Okay, I guess
Ultimately, I
have
kinda
ours lifted then?
You going to lift ours? You going to lift ours?
Well, somebody
I'm
else
not-
did that a long time before I got here.
I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, Congress, we want to put term limits on them. That'd be great. But it starts with them, unfortunately. Delegate Clark.
My instinct on this issue is very simple. I would really need a unanimous vote from the Board of County Commissioners to embrace this as part of their package, because the Board of County Commissioners are the ones that puts out the funds, the citizens' funds to fund the school board, and you already have limits on the the county commissioners, but significantly, this would be for your county, and the Board of County Commissioners is the last stop on the county and what they need and what they don't need. So if it's something that we need to put through for you, we need a pretty unanimous vote on that,
I
or
would-
at least a significant vote on it.
I would comment to you, Doug, and I don't disagree. I chaired the elected school board task force years ago when we went from state to elected, and that discussion came up, and the commission had no desire to put term limits on the Board of Education members, particularly in lieu of the fact that the state Board of Education has such control over the game at the end of the day. So looking at it, we didn't want to do it then, and,
Well, and that's why I'm saying that I would need a super vote from the Board of County Commissioners to take that forward, because at my level personally, speaking just for myself, I would not be comfortable carrying something like that forward without the full faith of the Board of County Commissioners to do that.
I mean, I would say I brought term limits forward, I think, a few years ago for the Board of Education, just because I'm a supporter of term limits. I just am, like Delegate Morgan had said, generally speaking, that, there's the same, the voters, ultimately choose, okay? Either way, I don't know that you're going to see a supermajority or a majority from this board.
And
but,
then that'd be the case, but, the Board of County Commissioners, and that I have history with Board of County Commissioners, and I've always felt that the Board of County Commissioners are the ones that know what's best for their county and the people of their county, even better than us at the state level. It's a different view at the state level than it is sitting up here at this desk as a Board of County Commissioners. So that's just my feelings on it. I'm personally, myself, I don't have a feeling one way or the other, although you can say times are changing out there in the world. So I think that's a bucket of water that if it gets carried, it needs to be carried by the Board of County Commissioners. So. pressed to have that done.
Ultimately, we want good candidates, robust elections that, constituents can feel good about, that the elections were handled fairly. And, they can exercise term limits when they're choosing.
I think we move on.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Is that in?
That's all I have, and Senator and delegates, I'm happy to answer any questions between now and the General Assembly on any of these. Just call my office.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Bridget, would you please provide the guidelines for public input this evening?
Thank you, Commissioner President Guy. Citizens at home,
A little bit closer. Thank you, Dr. Bridget.
citizens at home who wish to speak at the joint meeting tonight may call 301-475-4200, extension 1234. Please provide your name and address record. You will then be given an opportunity to speak through the phone conference system. Sign-in sheets were also provided in the lobby for citizens attending in person. If you have not signed in and wish to speak tonight, we ask that you sign in now. All speakers will be allotted 3 minutes to address the commissioners and the delegation. At the end of the 3 minutes, our communications director, Elisa Casas, will let you know that your time has expired. We ask that you respect the 3-minute time limit in order to give all those who wish to participate an opportunity to be heard. Citizens were also provided an opportunity to address the commissioners via video submissions, but because we did not receive any video submissions for the public meeting, we will now begin accepting comments through our teleconferencing system. Ms. Casas, do we have any callers?
Dr. Bridget, gentlemen, it doesn't appear that we do. Let me check in with Julie. Hi, Julie. It's Elisa Casas. I'm calling to see if we have any public participation through our teleconference line for the Commissioners of St. Mary's County joint public meeting with the St. Mary's County delegation. Thank you, Julie. Dr. Bridget, gentlemen, we have no callers on our teleconference line.
Thank you, Ms. Casas. Ms. Ferris, do we have any citizens in the audience that have signed up to speak tonight? We do not have any citizens in the audience that would like to speak. Is there anyone that is here that did not sign up that would like to speak? Hearing none, Commissioner President Guy, this is closes your public meeting, public comment.
Commissioners, do any of y'all have anything to address?
Yeah, Mr. President, I just for Delegate Morgan, just want to know if there's anything on the agenda that you may have as either the delegation, individuals that you're looking at that the citizens should have input on.
Personally, I haven't talked to the four of you. I did have a conversation with Commissioner Guy about this. Medical billing for EMTs, for ambulatory service. I'm going to put something on paper this year. Right now, by Maryland state law, that the ambulance is they have to transport people to hospitals. And in other jurisdictions, they've had somewhat success over in Virginia to transport and have the option of maybe going to an urgent care facility. That kind of speeds up things. It waits in the emergency room, and honestly, taking people to the emergency room is the most expensive healthcare service, for first contact that you can get. So we're going to put something on paper. I have no fallacy of it passing this year, but we want to see what that would look like. I'll reach out to you when that legislation is done. I'd like to get you to weigh in on it. It might be a deal where I just draft it and we don't actually follow it as a bill after we see what it looked like. Many times, ideas look really good or sometimes a little complicated, and then you have to get them drafted, and it's problematic. But I'm going to put something on paper for that, and I'd like to reach out to you as we get closer to session. Now, our session is going to be a little screwed up. Well, it shouldn't be screwed up this year. We're just going to have a special session, by all accounts, beginning of December. So we'll be up in Annapolis at that point, and then session starts mid-January. So we'll go ahead and get stuff drafted. I know, Jack, you had or Senator Bailey, you had another proposal you wanted to pitch to them.
Sure, thank you very much. So last year, as you remember, with all of your support, we put a local bill in, Senate Bill 239, that dealt with minors possessing tobacco products in school buildings and on school property. And that bill was not successful. It did not make it out of EHE, even though it had the full delegation support and support of you. But there were some issues behind that, and even though this is a civil penalty, there was a monetary fine associated with it. And so there was some pushback. We redid that. We redid the amendments. And so there's no monetary fine with that at this time. It would be, the first offense would be a mandatory parental conference, where the parents would come in once a child, and remember, this is a minor that has possession of tobacco products while they're in school or on school property. And so first time would just be a mandatory parent conference to bring it to the parents' attention. The second would be a tobacco cessation class, so that they would then at that point in time be able to go over all the dangers and to realize the fact of what they're doing to their body. The third time or subsequent offense would again be a class, but at that point in time, the students, depending on the situation, could be required to do up to 4 hours of community service. Now, working with some of the other members, and we have a meeting that we are in the process of scheduling now with the NAACP locally because of this. Everybody thinks that it's a good idea. We think that it's a good idea to help our children, and it's something that we're going to work forward. There was some pushback on it based on the fine, because they said, well, this is the first step in the school to prison pipeline. So we've tried to do away with that. And we've checked into and done a lot of the research to see whether or not this legislation in St. Mary's County would be racially biased. And it is not. Actually, the situations that have been involved in history right here in St. Mary's has been about 76% of the people involved have been white children. So we're going to be moving ahead with that. I will, obviously, as soon as it's in a state that we can provide it to you, we will provide it to you, and we hope that you, the school board, and the sheriff support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bell. Anything else, anybody? Delegate Crosby, I do have something. At this meeting last year, we were asking if legislation was going to be introduced that the commissioners were not made aware of, and of course, you replied no. And subsequently, you introduced House Bill 655, which changed the commissioner election districts and process in our county, which had significant and wide-ranging consequences. This year, are you aware of or going to be introducing or supporting any legislation, resolutions, or initiatives that will directly or indirectly affect the citizens of St. Mary's County that have not already been addressed tonight?
So I don't know that answer at the moment. We have not sat down as a team and started meeting with advocates. I mean, as many of you know, I'm in government finance, and our fiscal year just ended. So once I get through that, now I start sitting down with the team and figuring out what bills we're going to draft or what legislation we're going to bring forward. And at the moment, I only know of one bill that we're 100% certain we're bringing forward, and that's for military licenses, spousal licensures for military spouses in medical professions. So that way Maryland can accept out-of-state licenses.
Transfer licenses?
Transfer the licenses in,
good.
so that way our spouses can immediately start to work. That is the only bill that at this moment I've had extensive conversations and know I am bringing forward. Could it change? Sure, it could, but I haven't had those conversations yet. And so I would say that any bill that I've proposed in the past is still an option, but we haven't made that final determination. I can also tell you that I know I've seen people have sent me videos of many conversations that have surrounded that, and those conversations deal with President Ferguson's comments, and I don't know what his office or the Speaker's office are doing on the issue as well. So I'm sure those conversations will begin to be had, but I haven't had them.
But you will continue to push House Bill 655?
I don't know if we're bringing it back, but yeah, I mean, I support
All right.
that policy.
So I think a lot of things are in flux right now. They give the public, I don't think anybody but outside this room probably knows what 655 is other than us. That was a bill that was proposed last year that would require single-member voting districts in counties that broke their districts up.
Mainly commissioner counties.
Commissioner counties, single-member commissioner county district lines, only applying to counties that actually broke their district up geographically. So the reason why we break our county up geographically is for geographical disbursement, because if we just had at-large voting for the whole county, 5 county commissioners, the 5 of you guys could theoretically live on the same street, and we were, whoever in their infinite wisdom back in the 1840s when they came up with this, said that we're going to spread out the commissioners throughout an entire county. So much is in flux right now with the state with the redistricting and maps and stuff.
We've seen some of that.
Yeah, we definitely seen some of that. We've seen some district maps that some look good and some look bad. The first draft was really concerning to us, and it detrimented St. Mary's County a good bit.
No, it did.
So I don't know what the plan is for a bill like that. I wish we would have just figured it out last year. We had a proposal to go ahead and take that to a voter referendum, and unfortunately it wasn't accepted and it was voted down on the floor because there's some things to actually like about that bill. But in the same token, you're dealing with a state that seems to like multi-member districts. So I think it's ironic that they're willing to impose their will on the counties, on some counties, and not on themselves.
Yes,
So,
very true.
So, I will make the comment, like, single-member districts, like, line up, make as many competitive districts as possible, and let's have it out. Like, that's just my general take on elections. And, to go back and address it a little bit more, the bill addresses at-large voting, and it is for commission districts, which they're the only ones that have it, the 5. That's why they were lumped into it. Now, Cecil County has council member, which they have it as well, but that's a different part of the code. So it would have been a completely separate, different bill because they were in the bill and then out of the bill. So it addresses it as a whole. And what I would say is, while there is geographical dispersion, people of certain communities, regardless of whether you live in Mechanicsville or Ridge or Lexington Park, should have the ability to elect and have a say at who represents them at their local board of government. So, I truly believe that.
What the bill did was there's 9 counties in the state that use at-large voting because the situation in like Garrett County where there's 35,000 people and a huge landmass is much different than a county like, I don't know, like Anne Arundel who breaks things out like by council seats. And a lot of this is limited because of population. So that bill really targeted areas like ours. I think it was only 5 counties in the bill until I passed the amendment to drag a bunch more counties in the bill because of their school board races. It affected 5 counties that used geographical disbursement. Mm-hmm. And it was framed over race relations or Jim Crow or some other
the only
nonsense
comment.
About
hold on. The only comment.
And I think it was just wrong how it was inputted in there. But like I said, and during all the floor speeches and stuff last year, there's some good things about that bill that we could probably work out. And really would like to get the voters' input on it.
So I don't oppose bringing in the school board. In fact, I accepted that amendment. It's not really, that doesn't rub me wrong one way or the other. You're right. I think it should be included. I don't know that necessarily if we bring the bill back, if we bring it back with that or without it, I don't know how that plays out, and I have to do a little bit more research on the code because there were some hiccups when it went over to the Senate regarding the code. And all I would say about the Jim Crow comment is that that's where at-large voting came out of. Nobody's accusing anybody of being racist, and I apologize if anybody feels that way, but that is a true statement. And that is where that type of voting and that system originated out of. And whether it's used for that purpose today or not, that's irrelevant. That is where this voting system came from.
You can't say that a system is racist if there's no evidence of racism in that system? The same system we use in Charles County has a completely different outcome, and it's the same system.
So-
And that was with the debate over that bill last year.
So Charles County forever tried to change it, and they were unsuccessful, and you're right. And now they're on the opposite side of that issue, and that's wrong. But at-large voting has been voted down by multiple courts in multiple different states, and struck down for that reason. So
Well, one more comment, because we're like re-debating that bill over again, I feel. I mean, the bill didn't address at-large voting. It promoted at-large voting. There's 9 counties in the bill that use at-large voting, and it didn't stop that from happening. At-large means the entire county. It only targeted those counties that broke up their districts by geographical election districts.
for
That's
certain
it.
positions.
What?
It only went after certain positions, right? So you could still have, for the commissioner president, you're still at large. Nobody's
large,
saying that, right? And that bill wouldn't have changed that. So
I
there's-
think what they're asking is, we could also, they're asking if there's a possibility in the future to make it completely at-large, which would be 5 commissioner races, just
At large.
completely at-large. And that building, that would have been legal by that bill. In fact, that bill promotes counties like ours to do that, correct?
say that one more time.
It wouldn't stop at-large voting. The bill could be obviously pushed in effect to eliminate all election districts in the county where the commissioners would run at large, just like they do in Allegheny County, for example.
Correct. If you don't have districts, then it wouldn't apply.
Well, I think one of the things to keep in mind here is this discourse that we're seeing right now is a part, now mind you, I will say I don't necessarily oppose the premise. However, this discourse is what needed to happen last year, what's going on right now. At our public hearing, in order for the citizens to be able to have this conversation and give their input prior to, because it would have been very helpful for all of us. And I think that's where I'm coming from with the process and why, you know, I can't speak for the other commissioners here, but I think it's important. It's obvious this is coming up again. It was stated last session it's coming up again. Pretty much the speaker, without saying as much, said it is coming up again. So it would have been good to know that while, even though Delegate, no fault of yours, you're working, you haven't prepared for the legislative process, you haven't met with whoever's there at this point, so you can't have that conversation now, but this is the time that our citizens are allowed to have that, not allowed, but are open to that microphone to have that conversation. So while what's in the past is in the past, what I want to ensure is that if something comes up and it's going to have this discourse, which we've already proven right here is a very, very important part of the process to not only our citizens, but the elected members here, that we have it here, that we have the conversation here, so our citizens locally can go ahead and get up to that microphone and say what they want to say. Supporting, not supporting, either one, because it helps me make a sound decision and affirm what position I'm going to take as their elected voice, north, south, east, or west in this county. So that's important. And that's like I said, the process is my thing. That's
Yeah,
it.
and I would just say this. One, I honestly, and I've said this 1,000 times, and I mean it, I did not think this was going to be a controversial issue when I brought it forward. And obviously, it turned out to be the second most controversial issue of the entire last session. So that, a little bit of political inexperience on my end on how this thing went. And I still do not even think it's a big deal. As far as the process goes, there was a public process. There was a public bill hearing where people could testify. And in fact, here in St. Mary's County, the one nice thing, and maybe there's some silver lining to COVID, is that now we have Zoom links where I know everybody has Zoom fatigue, but you can come and you can testify in front of any bill that is in Annapolis, without making the hour-and-a-half trek up the road, parking, which takes forever, waiting around for your 3 minutes, and then coming back, which ends up being a 16-hour day. You had the opportunity to participate, and so did our citizens in the process. And that is why the bill passed out of the House of Delegates. It followed the proper process.
It followed the proper process, but Delegate, let me tell you right now, you did not follow the process here.
It's a statewide bill.
No, when I asked you what was in the bill, you told me to listen in to the House, and you can find out. That's what you told me. Do you remember that, sir?
I had the opportunity, and you testified against the bill.
I certainly did.
So, I mean, you
And
were
it
part
was
of
a
the process.
process that I think you took away from our citizens, and it upsets me. It really does. Our citizens need to hear this up front.
We
And
do
it should have
joint
been.
meetings for
it
free.
should
So
have
just
made-
so I'm clear up front,
Yeah.
there is a possibility, I have not made a determination that I may bring this forward. There also is a possibility that other members in our state legislature could bring this bill forward too, unbeknownst to my knowledge. I have no idea if they're going to do this or not. So just so everybody is clear.
So
I think the citizens, excuse me, the citizens of St. Mary's County deserve their decision on how they want to vote. It shouldn't be dictated to us from Annapolis. I think the majority of the citizens of the county would agree to that. Now, whether you want to say the bill is not coming or not coming, and whatever goes on in Annapolis is, is your call. But the conjecture for a considerable amount of time since the last session is it's going to come back one way or the other, and I think everybody in the room would sit there and acknowledge that. To sit there and say it's not going to happen, or I don't know, I think it's disingenuous.
I don't know, and I would say that the bill came forward from citizens of St. Mary's County who brought that idea to me. It's not like something I drew up in some lab in my basement.
But the purpose of this, I think, is that there's a local process, and that's why we have this meeting, and then there's the state process. And the thought process on the timeline came up prior to our joint delegation meeting. So we know that it was there and it could have been discussed with us. And rather than citizens in this county, regardless of a Zoom link or other, had the ability to travel 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute, walking across the street to see all their elected officials in the same building and speak to them face to face, because we're the ones that vote to support the bills locally or not support them locally. And it's important that everyone is availed of every single portion of the process, whether it's at Annapolis or here. So while, Delegate, I'm not trying to beat up on you, what I'm asking for is consideration that while there is a process in Annapolis, we have a local process, and we're participating in it now, and our citizens deserve the right from down south to all the way north to come here to all their elected officials. And unfortunately, tonight, we didn't have anybody. I think probably because they were very mundane bills that were coming forward for the most part. But that's my portion of it. That's all it is. And I just want the process here to be followed.
I understand.
Out of mutual respect.
No,
Let's put it that way.
And
That's it.
I understand why, I should have had multiple conversations with each of you if I were going to bring it forward. I can tell you, though, that it is a statewide bill, and so it follows the statewide process. So people have the opportunity to have input.
We can keep the commissioners up to date on that bill if it's filed or something that looks similar to
I do
it. Because
appreciate it,
it does
Dr. Morgan.
impact us. I mean, Commissioner Morgan's right. It does impact the citizens of St. Mary's, because the cumulative effect is it would reduce their votes from 5 votes for county commissioner down to 2. So we'll keep you abreast of that.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I would just say that I really do appreciate the fact that we had this candid discussion, because the communication between us is key to the future of each one of us, and it's key to the future of our constituents. Very important. And whether, there was different legislation, and I know learning, I put in some county legislation that I didn't quite follow the procedure, because I all of a sudden was going, hey, can you guys bring this up next week, because there is a hearing.
Yeah.
And I know that it puts you guys in a bad spot. And we redid that. Right? But there's definite times where we have all been flawed in what we have done. We hear what you're saying, right? It put each one of you in a very precarious situation last year. Put me in a bad situation when I read about my opinion in the newspaper when I hadn't even read the bill, right? And didn't even know it was happening. So there's definitely situations, we hear what you're saying. And as a group, the four of us, you have a commitment from us that we will work with you and follow your rules when we bring things forward. That's the best we can do.
It is important to us, too, because you guys are helping write the bills up. I'm not saying you guys alone, but the bills are written up in Annapolis and come down here to us, and we've got to enforce it. And it's very important that we get totally involved. And that's why I go to MACO every Wednesday during the time. I'm on the board of directors, and I work with MACO. They're like our, you might say, they help us in understanding some of these bills and give us some options on how we can make some changes and help them out, too. And they help us out. But it's very important we have good communication on all these bills, especially where they affect the citizens as much as this one did, no doubt. Okay, anything else, commissioners, delegates? Anything else?
We want to thank you for having us here tonight.
Well, you're very welcome.
Be in contact.
Well, this brings us to the close of our meeting this evening, and I would like to thank the delegation for their participation tonight. Delegate Morgan, would you like to say a few closing words or before we close?
Well, I just want to thank the commissioners for having us here tonight, and I want to thank the delegation members for showing up and all the input and work ahead of time on this. Your staff did an excellent job, so thank you.
Thank you very
Made our
much.
job a lot easier, and we'll
Thank
get
you all.
this
Thank
put
you all
on
very
paper
much.
and make some decisions for you.
There you go. We appreciate it. We've given you legislation. It looks good, so we appreciate you looking at them and making a decision. I appreciate discussion with the commissioners and the staff support during the meeting. I would like to thank the citizens of St. Mary's County for your attendance and participation, including those of you at home. The next business meeting of the commissioners of St. Mary's County will be at 0900 a.m. on Tuesday, October 19th. Next week is a vacation for us here. We hope you will join us then or watch the meeting on local channel 95 or our YouTube channel. Meeting adjourned.